So we start period 3 of the Apple Corps and the Rebels Long Island Amateur League playoff game. Rebels up 7-1 as we start the third. Apple Corps playing with just 10 skaters and one goaltender here for a number of reasons. Here's a centering pass to Dylan Newitz, comes around the opposite side. Apple Corps without a couple of players due to moving up to better teams as Blake Richard brings that in. Brendan Murphy and Connor Brooks playing for the Westchester Express now. And of course the rule in New York State is that you can play for your high school team and one travel team, but not two. And so Murphy and Brooks have moved up to the Tier 1 Westchester Express, which seems, especially in Murphy's case, to have been a no-brainer as Gavin Golisano clears it out. Here comes Charlie Della Penna, or rather Jack Caiola. Caiola from his knees got a shot away. Not a great shot, but a shot nonetheless. He has the Apple Corps goal this evening. Kieran Sullivan not in uniform for the Apple Corps. Spencer Abrams not in uniform. Ian Tum not here as well. It looks like we're going to have a penalty coming here, I believe, against the Rebels as Josh Plotkin took down Stephen Mount. Charlie Della Penna joined late. There was just horrendous traffic getting out here. Dylan Sullivan joined late as well. Jack Comerford is not here. And the penalty will be against Plotkin. So a power play coming for the Apple Corps, their second of the night. And so this half season that seemed to never end, the Apple Corps thought they were finished in November, then had a makeup game against the Aviators in January on the outdoor rink in Brewster, and then they thought they were done. And then they had to play the New York Stars in Coney Island on a Sunday night at 7:30 in Brooklyn. They lost that game 9-0, and then they thought they were done. And then they found out they qualified for this 4-team league playoff, and here they are. And down 7-1, when this game ends, they probably really are done. That puck hit the referee on the breakout, so play stops 35 seconds into the Apple Corps power play. But this team definitely had its moments during the regular season. This was a really good collection of players. This team beat the Millbrook Knights twice, beat the Long Island Edge twice, beat the Westchester Vipers twice. Here's Paradiso with a shot that's knocked away. They have the backup goaltender in there for the Rebels. I'm not sure who that is. The puck skitters to him and he covers it. Not sure who their second string goaltender is. But interestingly, this Apple Corps team lost twice to the Freeport Arrows, yet edged them out by a point to qualify for this game. As Pasquale Fata will take the draw. And this being youth hockey, we never had any inclination during the regular season that there would be a chance for the Apple Corps to qualify for such a league playoff. It never entered our lexicon. The Rebels finished atop the league standings by far at 17-0-1. They finished with 35 points. The Greater New York Stars, the team that beat the Apple Corps 9-0 in their last meeting, finished at 15-2-1. They finished with 31 points. And then the Long Island Edge finished with 30 points. The Apple Corps, by comparison, was fourth with 17 points. So it was the top three and everybody else. Here comes Tim Duffy already with a hat trick as the Rebels are back to full strength. Tried to stick handle through to Tricorico, and I believe that slipped through. So Tricorico makes it an 8-1 game. Tricorico scored in the game in November as well. For any of you who watch NASCAR, you know the playoffs come down to the final race with 4 drivers alive to win the championship. And Joey Logano, who ended up winning the championship, came in as an underdog. The reason we say that is because he tried to frame the final race as the Big Three and me. The Big Three being Kevin Harvick, Kyle Busch, and Martin Truex Jr. Well, that basically is how the league standings went here in the Long Island League. There was the Big Three and everyone else, in this case, the Apple Corps. So this result not necessarily unexpected, especially now given the short-handed team the Apple Corps brought here tonight, as Blake Richard knocks that down. Della Penna couldn't clear it out. It's held in by Josh Plotkin. But they battled as hard as they could for as long as they could, but it was just a matter of time before the talent and the legs took over as Richard stops that shot that ends up behind the net. Gaiola clears it out, but Drew O'Connor returns it to sender. This is Della Penna of Fox Lane High School. Carson Brunco tried his absolute best after not having a regular high school season. Here's Stephen Mount with a shot that goes wide. The Apple Corps certainly not quitting as the shot is stopped by the backup goalie for the Rebels. And we get a whistle with 10:07 left to go. Dylan Sullivan, Pasquale Fata, and Stephen Mount are your forward line. As Dylan Newitz hands it off to Francesco Coppola, who's off to the races down the right side. He has a goal in this game. Dylan Newitz, a shot, I believe, stopped by... Did that get stopped by Richard? I think he did stop that. Falling down on his backside, Richard makes a save. And again, don't let the score fool you. Blake Richard has made some stops with some high degree of difficulty here tonight. This game not indicative of A, how hard they played tonight and how well they played during the regular season. Here's Chris Biava, right side. He roofs it over Blake Richard, and it is a 9-1 game. So Biava has a goal. We have 9:34 to go. So the Rebels, as expected, will take on the winner of the game between the Edge and the Stars. I'm not sure when exactly that's going to be played. We looked on the Long Island Amateur Hockey League website and a couple of other places where some of these rankings are listed, and we could not find any information on that game. $9:10 left to go. Stephen Mount trying to keep the puck alive. A hat trick tonight for Tim Duffy. 2 goals for Ryan Matthews. Francisco Coppola, Chris Biava as well. And Aiden Rossi. And it is a 9-1 lead for the Rebels. This was a 1-1 game at the end of the first period, with Jack Kiola having registered the Apple Corps goal on a pass from Pasquale Fata. But it has been all Rebels since then. And the puck cleared out by the Rebels. Here comes Ryan Matthews. You know he wants the hat trick. Centered it in front to Rossi, looking for a second. Blake Richards said not now. And another shot slips through Richard. And now it's a 10-1 game. We don't know who that player is wearing number 7. He's not on the roster. So 10-1 the score here. An unfortunate way for the Apple Corps to end their season, which really was a fun season that had its ups and downs, but there certainly were some ups for this team. That loss to the New York City Cyclones, the 4-3 loss, was a real knockdown, drag-out affair as Ryan Matthews enters offensive territory. They had the loss against the Cyclones after the tie that they had in Brewster, that 3-3 tie, which was never more than a 1-goal game either way. So there were some fun games this Apple Corps team played this season. This is obviously not one of those. But it was a fun team as Charlie Della Penna goes off with 8 minutes left to go in a 10-1 game. So the Apple Corps shorthanded here. And unfortunately for Blake Richard, he's really got to take this because Ian Tum is not in uniform for the Apple Corps, so Richard is the sole goaltender tonight against this basically Tier 1 team playing down at the Tier 2 level. And it's swatted away and out of the zone by the Apple Corps. So a penalty against Della Penna has the Apple Corps shorthanded here in what will be, for the third time, what they believe is their season finale. They thought that in November when they played the Cyclones, and that one sneaks over Richard's shoulder, and that'll be a hat trick for Ryan Matthews. So a tough night all around here for the Apple Corps. We still have 7.5 to go. I believe that makes the Rebels 3 for 3 on the power play here tonight. So right at this point, what you're really hoping is that tempers don't end up flaring with the score so lopsided. That's certainly when you can see something like that happen. Especially when you know it's the end of your season. I'm not sure what the rule is in New York State high school competition. I know in Connecticut, in the Apple Corps have pulled Blake Richard. They don't want to submit him to any more of this, and I can't blame them for that. So the Apple Corps playing with 6 skaters and no goaltender. And Dylan Newitz can poke it in as Della Penna keeps it out. in Connecticut, if you end up with 7 major penalties over the course of a year, you are barred from playing in the state tournament. I'm not sure if that rule exists in New York, but certainly that's not the case with travel. It's certainly when you know your season's about to end, it wouldn't apply. And so you just hope that nothing crazy happens here in the final 6:22. An 11-1 lead for the Rebels, and they have been the best team in the league by far. Only the Stars could manage so much as a tie against them. And you wonder why they decided to play down at this level when so few of the games they played have even been competitive. Applecore held their own against this team in November, but that's when they had their full complement of players, and even then, they couldn't get within 4 of this team. And very few others have. So it will come down in this league to the big 3 of the Rebels, the Stars, and the Edge. The Stars and the Edge still to play each other. And the winner will play this Rebels team for the league championship, which will probably be a pretty good game. Especially if it ends up being the Stars. Here's Coppola. Tim Duffy, who has a hat trick, as does Matthews. Applecore gave it a go tonight as best they could, but again, no practice time since November. They got together to play the game in January and the game in February, but did so with no practice time. And I don't know how many of these Rebels players play on the same high school team, but what they do is they keep that schedule going throughout the year. They play just 18 games, but they don't play them all by Thanksgiving. They play them sprinkled through the high school season here and there. And so these players do see each other. I don't know if they practice as the Rebels, but certainly there's just a lot more cohesion as well as talent. But it's not just talent that's making the difference here tonight. 4:09 to go here. But the Applecore certainly can hold their heads up proud. They won 8 games in this league, a Tier 2 league, to finish 4th and qualify for this league playoff ahead of a lot of other talented teams, including the Freeport Arrows, the Long Island Sharks, the Vipers, who gave the Applecore a couple of tough games, both of which the Applecore won. That could have been a too many men on the ice, but at this point the referee is going to just swallow his whistle and let the clock run out if at all possible. Well, it was the big 3 in me, as we mentioned before, as it was in NASCAR, but in that case, the 4th person won the championship. That will not be the case here, of course, in the case of the Applecore. 3:04 left to go. Pasquale Fata couldn't hold it in. It ends up on Charlie Della Penna's stick. And the Applecore now playing with 6 skaters. This has basically turned into a game of shinny. A near steal by Della Penna. Goal leaders for the Applecore, Brendan Murphy, ended up with 12 on the season. Jack Comerford, who is not here tonight, scored 10. Charlie Della Penna with 13. They were the 3 players in double figures. Comerford finished with 10 goals and 11 assists. Murphy with 12 goals and 8 assists. Della Penna with 13 and 7 assists. 5 goals for Jack Lagan, for Spencer Abrams, 4 for Pasquale Fada. Stephen Mount had 8. Jack Kaiola with the goal tonight has 7. Carson Brunko had a couple. So very balanced scoring. Robert Paradiso also chipped in with a goal, as well as 12 assists. So while Brendan Murphy was clearly their breakout star, this was a very balanced team. And a fun team to be around. Final minute of play here in this Apple Corps playoff game in the Apple Corps season, and we're so glad that you could spend some time with us this season. We hope we've brightened some of your days and evenings. So the Apple Corps will finish 8-10-1 in the regular season and league playoffs. They finished with 11 wins overall. But it will not be 12 tonight, as the short-handed Apple Corps succumb to the league's best team, which moves to 18-0-1 and a spot in the league championship game with an 11-1 victory over the Apple Corps here tonight.